Hi, welcome at Upstyle Living by Lisa. Today I'm going to take you on a tour of my garden and kind of just talk through my little bit of a journey to get this garden started. First we had to decide where I wanted to put the garden that was going to get enough sunlight. And then there was a lot of clearing out shrubs and weeds and leveling the ground because it was up on a hillside. But before I get into that, I'm going to just share with you a couple of tips on how I keep myself organized with my garden and a journal. I've got this notebook, and in it I keep just a record of whatever I planted in my vegetable garden or in my herb gardens, or what flowers I have planted, and I'll make notes of what they're doing at certain times, and when I've fertilize them the next time they'll need another feeding. Before I started planting my vegetables into the garden, I looked on Farmer's Almanac, and I've grown gardens in the past, and some have done very well, and some, so-so. But I want to have as much success this year as I can with the garden, so I just dug a little bit deeper, and I was looking at companion planting and what plants to plant close to each other to help support each other, what plants not to plant next to each other. So I did that and made some notes, and then I mapped out on some graph paper the size of my garden and started just making little garden beds on here and where I wanted to plant everything. So that kind of helped me stay organized and not have to figure it out once I got in the gardens, because I knew where everything was going to go. What I do with my seeds, I store them in this box, and I have them divided up as between my herbs and my flowers and my vegetables. So I store everything in here, so it's just quick at hand when I need them. But right now I'm going to take you on a tour inside the garden and just kind of share with you what I did and what's been going on since I put the plants in the ground. So give me a minute and let me just get the camera. Okay, this is the view of the entrance to the garden, and what we did is we tried to utilize things that we had uh, already on hand here. So we had no dog lot, so we took the front part of that dog lot so that I'd have a gate where I could come in and out easily, and we put a temporary fence around the garden to keep the dogs out. So let's gonna enter the garden. Let me close this behind me so that the dog Charlie doesn't get in, and hopefully he won't unlatch it, because he does know how to unlatch it. I put down this landscaping fabric here, and it kind of helps my path where I'm walking, that I don't get too muddy. But I'm going to start up here where I've planted my corn, and I've got 6 ears of peaches and cream on this side of the garden here, and then along here, then I have silver queen. So we'll see how those do. They look like they're doing very well. This is the first time I've ever planted corn, so I'm pleased with the way that they're looking. Behind each one of the corn stalks, I planted beans all the way down the row. And I could let the beans go ahead and travel up the corn stalk, but I decided to actually, I just used yarn that I had on hand and staked it down with landscaping staples or stakes, and up along the fence line for the beans to travel up. So I'll train them to go on up that. Up here, I want to put another row of fencing that they can continue just to travel on up. So they're doing very well, and every one of them have come up. So I'm really pleased with the way that they're looking on my beans here and my corn. So the next row on this side of the garden, here I put up this trellis here. I'd bought these trellises and they were really too small for what I had wanted them for. So I took some zip ties, and I'll tell you what, those things right there are the best thing to use in the garden. That's a gardener's friend for sure, these zip ties and putting my stakes in. So I'm really pleased with those. But I put my cucumbers here. And as you can see, they really have come up very well. And I'm really happy with those. So I'm going to train them just to climb on up that trellis. So across from them, I have a bush bean, Blue Lake bush beans. And they have blooms on them. And actually, if I can get down here, I put a little string right through here because the heavy rain that we had knocked this one over. So I kind of got her propped up a little bit, support, until she gets a little larger. But if I can come right down here, if you look really close, let me see if I can get it. Right there are some beans. And I'm so excited to see those today. So in front of my bean, let's see. Let me go on down the walkway. Right here on this side, I've got zucchini and yellow squash. So they have really, in the past week or so, they've really taken off with this warm weather and all the rain that we've had. And across from them, I have planted here, and what I did is took two old plant stands, iron plant stands that I had, and just kind of made a teepee with them and zip tied them together and put them in the ground. And I have spaghetti squash planted here, and I've got them tied up and trained to go up this trellis that I've made. And then the little ones here are butternut squash, and they're coming up. They're getting started. This one's doing better because the other one kind of got stepped on. I don't know if it was one of us or the dogs that stepped on it, but that is a butternut squash. So I want to train them to travel up this trellis that we made, and hopefully we'll get some good results out of there. So over here, I'm just going to back up because I've got 2 rows of indeterminate tomatoes, and I chose to do the stakes in the fence, and we'll be adding another row of fencing up here as they travel up. And I've just kind of tore some t-shirts and tied up those that needed to be tied. So we'll see how these turn out. Right now they look pretty good, and I've got my scissors so I can do some pruning this evening. I did read that it was better to prune in the evening and not during the day, because during the hot of the day is when your plants are working their hardest. And I've got some Roma tomatoes over here. They're a hybrid. And here I've got sweet potatoes that I just put out. They were looking kind of peaked inside and needed to get them in the ground. So I put them in this tub. It's kind of an experiment. So we'll just wait and see what they do. And if they work, I'll share that with you. And if they don't, I'll share that fail with you too. And then on the other side, I have peppers planted here. Now what I ran into when I was tilling up this ground is like this side of the yard, the soil was so-so. It looked pretty good. But every place that I planted, I had read that I could build the soil up where I put the plant in the ground and not have to build the whole thing up for this year. So I did do that. And then on this side, as I started coming down this way with the garden, it became more of a red, hard clay. And I left a few clumps here so I could show you just exactly what I was talking about in this here. And when it gets wet, it just compacts and it's really hard. So I've never had trouble growing peppers before in any kind of soil, so I don't know about this. I did mix in some garden soil and some real fine mulch with this just to try to aerate it to so it wouldn't be so compact. So we're just going to, I guess this be like an experiment just to kind of see how this is going to work. They don't look as great as I would like them, but they are looking better now. But I've got banana peppers and jalapenos and some red chili peppers planted. So that is the garden. I'm going to take you out here and show you another little project that we had worked on. This one, that was hard, but it turned out pretty. Don't know how well as far as the planting. I wanted to hurry and get out some onions, which I got to get in there and thin those out now. But they definitely came up very well. This area gets part sun and part shade. So I don't know how well that's really going to turn out. As far as green onions, it's great. But I am going to thin it out and we will see if they get any larger. And then we took some cinder blocks that we had and we did buy the 4x4s to make a little sitting bench while we're out here working and want to sit down and take a rest. And then over here I put some lettuce in, different varieties of greens, and they haven't done very well, so they're kind of getting spindly. I just don't think that there's really enough light, so I'm going to call that a fail. Don't think I'll do that again next year. During the spring, I didn't take into account the leaves coming on the trees, but it does get some sun, but I don't believe it's getting enough sun. So I hope you've enjoyed me and a tour of my garden, and hope that you'll continue to watch us here and see what the progress is on it and what happens. And like I said, we'll learn together, and fails and successes. And I can't wait for all these vegetables to come in the garden and see what all the recipes that we can come up with on out of this garden. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we have success, and I'll be seeing you all next time in the Upstyle Living Kitchen. Thank you.